Welcome to the talk about introducing or reintroducing or whatever the CoCo Group podcast. For anyone that's interested or maybe new to the community or whatever, somebody's unaware of the podcast, so welcome, and we'd like to introduce ourselves and hope you enjoy it. I'm John Linville, joined by my co-host Boise Pete.
Thank you, John.
Unfortunately, our other co-hosts are unavailable to be with us this weekend. I'm sure they're here with us in spirit. And perhaps on YouTube. Hello, Neil. All right, so let's have just a little overview of the show, and then we're planning to have some Q&A after the presentation here. So we are an audio talk show, and there's our logo. That's, of course, me and Neil and Mike Rowan, and Boise is the one taking the picture. So that is I get that question somewhere. Why is Boise not in the picture? I always tell them because Boise didn't want to be in the picture. So anyway, yeah, that's it. But, so what is the CoCo Group podcast? So we were the first regularly scheduled CoCo show on the internet. So there were a couple things. There was the CoCo. What was it called? Where the guys would get together and
the CoCo coordinated conference.
Yeah, the CoCo coordinated conference wasn't really a show. Right. It was a rag shoot. Is basically what that was.
Right. Yeah. It was in the '90s, mid '90s,
yeah,
late '90s.
Yeah, late '90s, maybe early 2000s, but yeah. Let's see. So we offer a monthly serious look at our hobby, and I don't mean like people are dying or whatever. I just mean we take it seriously. We're not there to joke around or whatever. We just kind of want to have a serious discussion about things. So we offer what we believe is thoughtful consideration of current events and issues. And we offer no apologies, no excuses, and limited fluff. And I don't mean to sound like a badass or anything like that. It's just the way we see it. We're just, some people are there to have fun and giggle and whatever, and we're just not there for that. So if you want to giggle, fine. We'll be happy to point you in a different direction and hope that you find what you want. But it's not our show. All right. So how to get it? Well, we are available where podcasts are sold. People don't buy podcasts. Okay. So we do have a standard RSS feed available at CoCo.org. We are listed by prominent aggregators, for example, Apple and Google. We are streamed by Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. I think that's it right now. We do a video conversion of each episode and post that on YouTube. Honestly, started doing that kind of just because to see if I could make a video conversion that would be reasonable. And it turned out a few people liked it and use it because they actually find it helpful. It's helpful for people that have English as a second language, or sometimes people that have hearing disabilities or whatever else. Turns out YouTube has pretty good subtitles that it can automatically generate. And so it can be helpful when you want to read. You can read the show instead of having to listen to it. Helps some people. So. Anyway, if you can't find us through your favorite source, then please reach out. You generally, any of these places that list these things generally has a way to get listed on them. You tell me what it is where you want to find us, I can probably get us listed, so let us know. All right, so let's talk about contributors. So, who's this handsome guy? That's a younger version of me, at least. I'm the mastermind. The evil Dark Lord. I did create the Game Master cartridge, the Sega joypad adapter, a couple other things here and there. Other Farfall, Xmas Rush, Follow CoCo, Sluzzle, etc. Anybody else remember Sluzzle? Yeah, a couple people. Yeah. Okay, so who else? So Neil Blanchard, he's not here. Neil's a friendly neighborhood Canadian IT guy. He's a connoisseur of 90s discography. He does produce CoCo cartridge games. and some, he produces the Sega joypad adapters, for example. He also does his own disc jockey show on Friday nights, where you will get some of that '90s discography if you're interested. So, let's see. So who else? We got Mike Rowan. He's our international man of mystery. For their commercial spoofs, comic breaks, and other satire. So if you don't know, this is of course Mike Rowan is Myro. He's the guy who does our like you said, our spoof commercials and that sort of stuff. He's also the primary editor of the show. Sometimes he trades off to Neil, but mostly it's Mike. Oh, yeah, okay. So, moving on. So now we got Boise Pete. So Boise's the creator of Drivewire. Did you know? Yes. Good. Creator of Drivewire. Boise worked in microware. He is a published author. He likes to play French music. And he is our CoCo historian. So there's that handsome devil. All right, so who else have been contributors? So, of course, Ron Klein was a regular host and part of the show for a while. It's had some family events intervene and decided to spend less time with us, more time with them. It's understandable. Let's see, we got Kieran Hanscom, our UK correspondent. He's done a little help with us covering some Dragon events and that sort of stuff. We got Tim Linder. Tim did a tech segment on the Sound Speech Pack, I think it was, some time ago. And we've got Mark McDougall. And Mark does some pretty good technical work down in Australia. And he's helped us out with some technical segments as well. So let's talk about our format, our features. So we cover news. We do, all right, so let's just say news aggregation and propagation has always been a show priority. The amount of news each month varies a bit, and for a while, so did our recording lengths. So, but eventually we settled on, we generally cover about 30 news items per episode. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. It depends on how you count, but we're talking about the actual line items in the show notes. And it's about 30. So as a result, not everything that's news is covered. Okay? So it's a certain amount of editorial discretion on what we think is news or not, what we think is important or not, what we think is appropriate or not. It's all on us. We don't cover everything, we cover what we like. So it's just the way it is. So yeah, so stories that interest the host are prioritized. Stories that bore the host may be left out. Sorry. So as a reminder, if you're a newsmaker, you should post your news items publicly with permanent URLs. So it's no good to post something that disappears. You know, don't post to a Snapchat or whatever else. It's not going to do any good. We want to have a link to it. We want to be able to go back to it, whatever. And we don't go everywhere looking for stuff. We go a few places and we sometimes discover new stuff and do different places, but we don't look everywhere. And so most prominently, I collect most of the new stuff. I do not tend to use Discord. I know a lot of you do. I don't. And so if you only post to Discord, I probably won't see it. It probably won't be on our news. That's the way it is. Okay, so announcements is part of our show. So announcements are like news from the side or from the future. So it's information related to the show or topics of the show, information about upcoming events in real life, or other timely information or news, particularly with limited CoCo focus or without a URL or proper write-up. So we get an announcement about a coming event or a contest or something like that, or somebody's going to put on a show or whatever. It'll probably go in our announcements. Okay, it's feedback. Moving on, feedback. This is when we listen to you or you interact with us. Often has direct comments or responses to points from previous episodes. It's kind of the point, right? Taken from emails sent to the host, but also from interactions on Facebook, YouTube, etc. So just in case you ever say anything that you think we might pick up on and you don't want to be on the feedback, it wouldn't hurt for you to say don't include this. If we see it, we might include it. So there you go. We do love to get feedback, even or especially when it is contrarian or constructive. Not everyone seems to believe this, but it is true. We do like to get feedback, even when it's not necessarily nice about us. Okay, parting thoughts. So the end of each show has some thank yous and other light commentary from a single host. It began as a last minute addition to the first episode. I did the parting thoughts in the first episode. Back then, Neil was the editor, so we shifted to Neil early on. Out of convenience, he could finish the podcast and do the parting thoughts. And so we were just reducing coordination with getting the show edited. But Neil still does it now, even though Mike has been editing. Mike's been editing, I think at this point, Mike has been editing more than half the podcast. So, pretty long time. Anyway, it does make a nice capstone for the end of each episode. So, at least we think so. All right, tech segments. So, many, maybe most episodes have a technical segment. Most are provided by John, that's me. There have been a few guest spots. Segments we think it brings some technical gravitas to the show, big $4 word. But we think it's important, it gives us some credibility or whatever. Anyway, they are intended to promote technical projects and problem solving amongst audience members. So, cover a topic I'd like for you to learn from it and be able to do something with it. That's the point. I'm not just telling you this stuff just to exercise my mouth. Tech segments have often been the source of feedback. Yeah. So, moving on. There's a segment that Boise likes. This month in CoCo history takes a look at the history of our favorite retro computer with a focus on what was in the news during the current month, but here's you go. Created and provided by Boise, often draws from published written sources like Rainbow and other magazines. John, that's me, I did substitute as a segment host for a few episodes, and I attempted to emulate Boise's signature presentation style. Hopefully that was entertaining. All right, host discussion. All right, this is where we have a free-form discussion amongst the hosts on the topic of mutual interest, often related to current events in the CoCo community at large. Topics are chosen during the general recording session for an episode, often, almost always, with no prior discussion. The moods and attitudes of the hosts are not intended as discussion factors, but they do have an undeniable influence. It happens. A generous exercise of editorial discretion is applied to most discussions before publication, just so you know. Some host discussions have proven to be controversial. So if you want to talk about any of those controversies, please hold to the end. All right, Neil's Corner. So Neil's got his segment on the podcast, often gaming related or a game review. Generally features something newly released or coming soon, homebrew games. Neil demonstrates why Canadians are known for being nice. So that's why we like him. We hope that no matter how angry the host discussion makes you, listening to Neil talking about games will soothe you. Yeah. So that's the idea. Okay, long form interviews. So the CoCo crew has conducted a number of interviews with people of interest to our listeners. Most interviews are of limited duration. We tend to avoid those recently interviewed in other CoCo media because why do you want to see the same person interviewed twice in the same week or month or whatever? It makes sense to us to keep the shows more interesting. We prefer those involved in some ongoing or upcoming project or event. Not to say that if you wrote something for the CoCo in 1983, not that we don't want to talk to you, but if you wrote something in 1983 and we got the guy who's going to present something new at the next CoCoFEST, we're probably going to talk to that person instead. But you never know. If you have a suggestion for interviews, feel free to share them as feedback. So we'd love to hear from you. If you know somebody who ought to be interviewed, somebody you have a contact with, anything like that, please feel free to reach out. Okay, so what about event coverage? So our on-the-scene coverage of events has been limited. It's difficult to coordinate with attendees at events. Attendees want to experience the event themselves. And honestly, it's easy for event coverage to make for boring listening. You tend to get people walking around, bumping into people, whatever. It's not always very interesting. So, plus, people should attend the events themselves in real life. That's our thought. Okay, so what about the commercial spoofs? Commercial spoofs provided by Mike have been a staple of the show for a long time. Mike was actually the first person to send feedback to me and Neil right after our first show. We, of course, knew Mike at that time, but just another guy in the community. Then he started writing to us, then he started sending us the funny spots, and now we are where we are. So the commercial spoofs do provide some amount of comic relief. They often have a bit of nostalgia. Some people complain the commercials are too realistic and need a warning announcement. Yes, it's true. So, all right, so moving on, miscellaneous. So statistics, the CoCo podcast can document well over 250,000 streams and downloads over the time the show has been hosted by Cyber Years. Originally, we were hosted by, what was it, the other place?
Lisbon?
Yeah, that's right. Phillipson. And we didn't get good statistics from them. Whatever. There we go. No information available when the show was at Phillipson. Cyber Years statistics used to reset on New Year's Day. 1 year I forgot to snapshot, and some of the counts were lost. As is now, we take the Cyber Year statistics, I transcribe them to a locally maintained spreadsheet for tabulation, broken down by year. I actually have a Google Sheets version now, but I'm still using the old one because I'm old. Anyway, so there's you may have seen us publish a graphic like that before. That's basically a graphical cut and paste from the spreadsheet. And so there's our current number as of this week, 283,883. So thank you. We're very happy to have had that amount of support from the community, and hopefully it means we're doing a good job. So, all right. Any questions?
What's your cat's name?
Unfortunately, that's Mischief, and unfortunately, we had to put her down a few months ago. So, but she was a good cat. Anyway, any other questions?
You have t-shirts?
I have t-shirts that I made for myself, but we don't have general merchandise.
Okay.
Soda bottles.
A regular hardware thing, the new hardware. Basically, you're the use, because it's hard to run this down here if you don't let in the.
Well, sure. It's worth suggesting or worth thinking about. So it sort of would cross a little bit between what Neil does and what I do or whatever, but we could probably figure something out, or at least try to focus on that once in a while. And we should do like Rainbow on that.
Yeah, I was thinking of that. Well, we are pretty much what I call an audio version of the Rainbow. So, yeah, fit right into our style.
If you get a question, can you repeat it into the mic so it can get picked
I
up?
understand. So that question.
Should we have a regular hardware segment?
Yeah.
Right, we'd be behind you to do that.
Should we have a regular hardware segment? Yeah. So, and I think it would be a reasonable idea. I can't guarantee that we will, but it's a good idea. Anything else? Anyone else?
Any other upcoming interviews, meetings, or anything like that?
We don't really have anything in the can at the moment. We got a couple of leads, I guess. If you enjoyed our Infocom interviews a couple of years ago, we may have an extension related to that. But that's not guaranteed. It's a positive outlook, but not set up yet. Anything else? Okay, so there's my contact information. Feel free to reach out to me. I will forward it on if need be. Okay, so that's all the presentation information I have. So of course our boys are here. If anyone has any live Q&A or whatever, we're happy to go on from there.
I think you guys buried the lead that you are the prime promoter of CoCoFEST. It's the only way I found out about it.
So the show was essentially founded for that purpose. Oh yeah, the suggestion is that we buried the lead that we have been the primary promoter for CoCoFEST. And the show was conceived to do that. We have put in some effort promoting CoCoFEST over the years. I think we continue to do that. The truth is, some of our show principals have become involved in promoting Tandy Assembly. Not quite a conflict, but there potentially a conflict of interest there. I think we kind of pulled away from it some. I mean, we felt like CoCo Talk was pushing CoCoFEST enough that the saturation should still have been there. So I hope that we haven't hurt CoCoFEST in that process. I just feel like we just shifted the load to a different media outlet. So,
adding to that, any idea what the attendance was on the last CoCoFEST before you guys were promoting it in 2016? That was my first show as well after your podcast came out. I was just curious.
yeah, I mean, I don't know the number exactly. I want to say something like 60 people or something. And then the first one I remember after we were a show was, I don't know, it was bigger. Maybe 90. I don't know, maybe more than that. But
I remember one of your episodes saying that CoCoFEST was in danger of fading out.
in the past,
And that's why you started.
well, and that's our own judgment. It's not that anybody else specifically said that, but that was kind of our judgment, is that it was becoming pretty ho-hum, poorly attended, and kind of dying before our eyes, and we weren't quite ready to see it go. So we been promoting things, and I had started doing some promotion on stuff on the internet with blogging or whatever related to my CoCo video player, and then related to Farfall, and just kind of continued from there, and then pulled some of that into CoCo Crew, and it's kind of gone from there.
Thank you. Thank you for what you've done for us all these years.
Well, appreciate it. Happy to help. Hopefully, it's been a positive difference. And I mean, like I said, it's been a rough couple of years, right, for all of us in every endeavor. But particularly CoCoFEST, was hit a little hard. Tandy Assembly missed an event 1 year. We did have one this past year. Of course, there was a CoCoFEST in that fall too. A little bit out of time, I guess. But still, it was an event. But we're all still trying to maintain in the community. Like I said, Tandy Assembly is a slightly different focus. It includes representatives from the Z80 world, and also from like the Tandy 1000 line and pocket computers. And so it's a little bit different focus. But anyway, I think it's good to have two events, to be honest.
Or can you talk to your YouTube channel? That is fascinating. I know it's not.
Yes, well, yeah, the CoCo Collector. For those of you that don't know, I do have a YouTube channel. I sporadically post on it. I have a large collection of CoCos, and as I've been going through, I try to document them in a video. I think I'm up to 7 episodes.
7 or 8, something
And
like
I've used one episode to showcase a project that I worked on, the Heater Project, which was multiple CoCos connected together. So yeah, that was kind of my foray into doing something online, video-wise. But yeah, CoCo Collective, thank you for bringing it up. So I'm trying to get some new episodes out as soon as I can. It's been very busy. Thank you.
Anyone else? Randy, anyone? I can see you dying to say something. Ron? Tell us, Ron. I got asked recently, what happened to Ron? Why is Ron not on the show anymore?
I guess I haven't gotten back on yet, but maybe you can twist my arm and I'll get back on there again. I did enjoy the time that you guys let me be on the show. It was fun.
I think one of the cool things about our show is that we can bring on people like that, sort of rotating occasional guests. People like Tim Linder who contributed, their own. And if anyone is interested in doing that, talk to us. If you want to add, if you want to suggest a segment, that's great. But if you want to do a segment and give us a pre-recorded copy, that's something we would entertain too. We'd like to do more of that, I think, right?
Yeah, that'd be nice. I mean that's I'm trying not to get into trouble.
Good luck.
So obviously there's a primary alternative in CoCo media that everyone's aware of. And then of course it's CoCo Talk. They have a different approach to the entertainment they're providing. They have a different approach to who is on the show. And they're certainly more open and more approachable or whatever if you want to be on the show. I don't know the rules, but I'm pretty sure if you want to be on CoCo Talk, you can be. And that's good. Or maybe it's not our show, it's their show. If that's what they want, then it's good. and like I said, it's their show, and if you like that and want to watch a show where that is there, then please do watch their show. But it's a different show than ours, and we do sometimes have conflicts in the community or amongst people that are derived from a different or unmet expectations. You get people who expect us to run like CoCo Talk. I'm sure there's people who expect CoCo Talk to run like us, and they're probably unhappy too. It's not really intentional; it's just sort of the way it turned out. So at one point there was a discrepancy or a little argument or whatever. The discussion point being, is CoCo Crew a talk show? Which I thought was a dumb question. What else would we be? We're a show, we talk. That's all it is, right? It's a radio show, basically. But someone pointed out that at least one definition of talk show goes more like, have you ever seen Graham Norton? Or some of the other, there's a British style show that's called a talk show. It's sort of a couch show or whatever. Bring on a lot of guests and have them riff on each other. Well, that's a little closer to what CoCo Talk does. It's not what we do. And I'm certain that people enjoy that kind of show. And if that's the show you want to enjoy, especially if you want to enjoy it on Saturday afternoon, then don't knock on our door. Somebody else is doing that. So anyway, like I said, we have a little different perspective. We do take ourselves a little seriously, for good or ill. And that's who we are. And we think we have a place in the community, and I hope you've enjoyed what we've done, and I hope you continue to enjoy it. And we're pretty pleased with the statistics that we're seeing, and so, hoorah. Go ahead.
I for one would happily invest in some merch if you guys chose.
We might should do that. We don't have the right skill set, I think, for it.
It's not something we've really thought about. When you say merch, you mean like t-shirts, cups?
I definitely wear my CoCo t-shirt.
Yeah, well, we don't need much money for what we do.
Right. We don't. It would be for a fundraising thing for us. I think it would just be for promotion. But we probably should update our logo a little bit when we do that.
To include you.
Yeah, maybe make it more generic. I guess.
Okay, good do that.
But yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah, it's more just to kind of get our image out there. I think, right? To just kind of camaraderie. That's right.
Go ahead.
Does it ever surprise you how much news there is every month? And keep going with this platform, the fact that all this feed is still running.
Well, it's not surprising at this point because I've been doing it every month for 7 years now. But like I said, I basically I opened the file for our show notes and I put in 30 spaces or 32, whatever the number multiple too. But anyway, I put in those spaces and then I filled them in, so I kind of know how much we're going to have. And the truth is, I usually have at least a dozen or more things that could have gone in that didn't, and then they didn't go in either because of timing or because they're not quite cooked or something like that, or whatever. So, but there's usually something left over. Occasionally, there's we scrape the bottom of the barrel, but not too often. And so yeah, we do hear a lot of comments, even from other people, other podcasts or whatever, will comment on the CoCo community being so active or whatever. Yeah. I'm not really sure why we're so crazy or whatever it is, but so there's a lot of activity.
Also, a lot of our news, John's the procurer of our news. A good bit of our news is not just CoCo related, it's ancillary to the CoCo, right? And it's retro related. We tie it into somehow a discussion about the CoCo as well. So it's kind of a survey of the CoCo and the surrounding elements.
Yeah, but like I said, that's the not a CoCo project, but it could be.
Yeah, that's right. It's kind of an aspirational set of news at times.
So, and like I said, it's not always about an actual CoCo project or whatever, but it's supposed to be things that are interesting to our potential audience. So hopefully we're meeting the mark.
Another fun thing about the podcast, and this is kind of what Mike does, is the ads that Mike creates. I think, Steve, you were the one that indicated that they're somehow too realistic and we warn later on. It's true.
I've been bit at least twice.
Yeah. People will start calling these phone numbers and all that. But no, I think that's sort of the magic of what we do, in the sense that we take the nostalgia of those old ads, of those old products, and put a fresh new spin on them, intersperse that within our content as you listen. So you don't just hear us talking, you get this break, you get this cool ad, and you never know what ad is gonna pop up, right?
That's true.
And then you might hear that this month the CoCo history spot, you might hear something else. So it is literally, as I said, it's like flipping through the pages of the rainbow, but in an audio way. And that's kind of what we try to create every month.
Well, like you say, that's what we're going for, more or less. And it's become a focal point for the host for our own hobby. Sometimes to the detriment of our own ability to sit down and solve or something or program something. But it keeps us in the game a little bit and keeps us talking, and it satisfies the niche. So, go Randy.
Has anybody ever been interested in doing a real ad? Actual?
That's the problem. There have been real ads.
Well, there have been a few.
I would know.
There have been a few suggestions or whatever. I guess
I think we had somebody willing to pay us too, right?
You've run 5 ads.
we've had
Yeah.
Five Nine, we've had we've had deals, like,
Gamester.
Gamester or whatever. Yeah, some of that money should be, marked a little more, but,
I wouldn't know exactly how we should, part of the fun is the ambiguity of it, right? It keeps you kind of off guard. You're not sure if it's real or not. That's kind of the fun of it.
Well, if you use 555 on the phone number, that's a good one.
yeah, sure. Well, probably if the phone number has 6809, it's probably.
Yeah.
And people who know that the G&M controller isn't made anymore, obviously, get the joke, but some people don't. So it's an interesting problem.
I don't think we've had too many serious offers to pay for ads. There may have been one or two, but not a lot, and not enough to retire on. So, and,
You guys always had the theme song, was that President's episode 1 or did it show up later?
well, let's see. Well, at first we had this riff that Boise had put together.
Yeah, years ago, I made that.
That yeah, it's a do 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 do, and kind of picked it. I don't know, being spiteful, I think, because it irritated people. So
Yeah, there was a certain individual in the CoCo community that indicated he didn't like it, so we just kept running it for a
yeah, it's
while.
kind of a joke, but whatever.
But then Mike came out with the new version,
Yeah.
right? The new, which is a nice thing.
I've listened to it time and again, and there's one line in there that I can't make out what they're saying. Optimally brilliant.
Okay, that's the lady in the British voice saying, "Absolutely brilliant." Right. I thought, what was it? I thought it was saying.
I don't remember.
She was singing in a British accent, and I said, Mike, what is this? What is she saying? Like, I think that's what she's saying.
I think
right?
that's what she's saying. Absolutely brilliant.
But I thought it was. I can't think of the phrase. It was totally
Is that not
nonsensical. Huh?
Is that not John?
No, that's a British. Yeah, Mike's wife Joan will do some of the female voice ads, but I think he must have got that from somebody else.
I don't know where
Now I know.
Yeah, I was thrown off by that for the
I
longest
always
time.
wondered.
Somebody told me that the quote, "Got your CoCo yet?" was some candy note.
Yes, I'll tell you the story behind that. So our first theme song was, "Hey, you got your CoCo 3 yet?" That was Barry Thompson. He was a buyer for the color computer. And in October of 1986, he was part of a roundtable panel that was recorded at the Princeton Rainbow Fest. And that's where I got that sound segment from there. And that's kind of a little mix I had made. So hey, you got your CoCo 3 yet? That's kind of coming to a little saying in the community.
Which was him suggesting that he was looking forward to a future where somebody might pull up on the highway or you on the sidewalk and you come out and yell at you, "Hey, you got your CoCo 3 yet?" A little silly, but
It's a little fun on our part.
Everybody always just makes me smile. I just listen to it, that's fine.
cool. Well, hopefully everyone has that reaction.
We probably need to update our theme song at some point too, maybe. Huh?
Probably should, like I said, maybe we should do a refresh of all our collateral bits. So, just.
Did you run out of battery?
Yeah, well, that's fine. Maybe we should have a refresh of all our collateral bits, refresh the logo, refresh the theme song, whatever.
That's not a common to do a milestone, so.
I mean, the other thing is we could gracefully retire at 7 years. That's what we just did, 7 years of episode. So I don't know. I figured we'd probably wait at least until 10, but I don't know. 3 years is a long way away. So I don't know. So this is where you guys beg us to keep making it. Yeah.
I think the great thing is there's so much content. There's different tastes and people like different things, and there's no wrong way to CoCo. There's no wrong way to consume CoCo content, and variety is the spice of life, right? So something for everybody.
Well, it's funny. Well, I mean, think about it. That was sort of the beginnings. Forgive me if I overstep, but that was sort of the beginnings of CoCo Talk was there were people who didn't think we were providing enough content, and so they started getting together and having their own talks. And those guys, they're 4 hours on every weekend or whatever. So clearly, there's a demand for some content. And it doesn't all need to be the same. And I'm glad there could be somebody else to provide some of it because I can't do it all. That's for sure.
I think while it speaks to the breadth and the size of the CoCo community's interest in having.
We're not hearing you now, Boise.
Sorry. I'm just saying it speaks to the CoCo community's breadth and size to be able to accommodate more than one venue for podcasts. I mean, there's also the CoCo show. There's other stuff too, right?
And Taylor and Amy, right? So it's at least 4 shows that have at least a significant amount of CoCo content. Is there any others? There might be.
Well, there's plenty. There's too many.
Yeah. Well, weekly is tough. I don't know how you keep doing the weekly, but monthly is tough enough. Yeah, go ahead.
Just a bit of feedback, having, been appeared as a guest. You guys aren't that bad looking that you have to avoid video. You can do the occasional videos.
Well, no, that's a comment that we've had for a long time, basically, encouraging some more video output or whatever. And I think I don't know that any of us are avoiding it because of any kind of shyness or whatever. I'm not particularly shy. Bosie's not particularly shy. Neil's a little shy. But yeah, it just doesn't appeal to me. I just don't really want to be on video. Too prone to picking my nose or whatever, and I just don't really want to do it. And I'm not sure how I'd add any value to it. You know what I mean? But I still will, do some video stuff for CoCo projects or whatever. But even then, I tend to not appear on camera, but occasionally. But yeah, it just doesn't appeal to us for whatever reason. So. Anything else? Anyone want to be a guest host? No? Well, call us if you just change your mind. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead.
What are you looking for?
We don't really have a job description.
You guys have already said you're pretty selective, so what?
Well, we're a little selective, but I don't think we have preconceived notions, I guess is what it comes down to. We're gonna have to like whatever shows up. Yeah, so anyway, I'm out of things to say. I'm out of things to add here, so I'm gonna call it. And anyone else going once, twice? All right, so thank you for coming and thank you for listening to us. Please download the podcast and give it a listen to. Like I said, I do look at the statistics, and it's to me the amazing thing is that every month there's still new people downloading the first episode. So we're getting new people every month, and it's kind of amazing to me that 7 years in, there's still people downloading. And you can kind of see it bubble up through the statistics. You'll see, well, that, that month was 10 more than it was last month. And then you go a month before, well, that was 10 more too. And then there'll be a bump, and well, that was only 7 more. And so you can always see the people crawling their way through the back catalog. It's kind of neat to me, anyway.
You say